Hello, my name is Tom Hollowell, and I'm with 321 Gang. And I'd like to welcome you to our webcast, Integrating Jira with IBM Engineering Lifecycle Management, and our speaker, Robert Belarjan. So, 321 Gang, we're part of the Sodius Willert Group. We're based in the US. We're the largest IBM resale partner in the world. We provide consulting, training, implementation, migration services, in addition to reselling software. So we're partners with Atlassian, GitLab, Pure Systems, IBM Aptio, and of course, IBM Engineering. So one of the things we really notice in working in these environments with this variety of different organizations is the need to exchange data among applications. And that's part of what Robert's going to talk about today. He's going to talk about Jira and IBM ELM. One point before I turn it over to Robert is if you happen to be in the U.S. and are interested in attending, we've got a engineering user conference and automotive day, June 11th in Pontiac. There's a little link here. Check it out, or you can Google it and you will hit it, or you can visit 321 Gang and you should be able to find it. But it's the IBM user conference in Pontiac. And with that, Robert, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. It'll be good to see people live in person in June. But today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about OSLC and Jira. And as Tom said, we're part of the Sodius Willert group. I'm actually part of the Sodius part of that group. So we do a lot of the products and IP. And so my team runs our OSLC integration. So today we're going to work on getting some success here and showing how IBM ELM and Atlassian work together, why we use OSLC, and we're going to focus mainly on a live demo because I'm an engineer, probably like most everybody else on the call, and we always like to see tools work live. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to start your free trial at the end of this. So um, I think there's a question dialogue in the GoToMeeting. So if you have questions, go ahead, put them in there. Tom's going to go through and select a few of those there at the end. And if we don't get to them, we'll also go ahead and contact you and provide answers after the webinar as well. So with that, let's kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing. I'm a longtime IBM ELM user. I think I'm probably one of the early ones because I got to roll out Jazz 1.0 back in, I think, 2009 in an automotive tier one. And so I've been around this community for a long time. And what we get from the IBM ELM suite is engineering rigor, configuration management, cross-domain reporting, some great things about compliance and industry standards. But we also have things like Jira software that are out there and that are commonplace in the marketplace. Almost every organization has Jira deployed somewhere. And there's a lot of marketplace extensions, ours included, that add value to the Jira software platform. And so what we're talking about is how do we bridge that formal rigor that we have in the IBM ELM suite with the tools that we know a large selection of our engineers use on a daily basis, like Jira. And so that's what we're trying to do. And what we're doing is we're actually utilizing, instead of just doing a point-to-point integration, so integrating between Jira and IBM ELM, we've adopted, like IBM initiated, the OSLC standard. And so what we like about this OSLC standard is we're not copying data. So it allows us to preserve repositories across the entire engineering toolchain. Lets each tool have its own unique data model. So data remains in Jira, data remains in Doors Next, for example. But we do have semantics on how we link between those projects and integration points, meaning how do I select a requirement from Jira, or how does a Doors Next user select an issue or a story item that they want to utilize. And there's a whole protocol on how we do that. And best about this, and we'll see a lot of this as we go through with the IBM ELM suite, there's also a mechanism to deal with configuration. So how do we version artifacts? How do we reference versions of artifacts? And how did we do that in an elegant way? So as we move a Jira issue, say from one release to another, or we move into a different configuration of requirements, we pick up the right Jira issues that are appropriate for us. Those are the things that are important. Now, from an IT perspective, OSLC is great because the way that I integrate between these tools is always authenticated control. So as I show information from Jira within IBM ELM, for example, I'm always authenticated already to Jira. And so we have audit logs, we have audit controls, and we're not copying data. So our IT organizations tend to be happy to see these types of integrations. Now, specifically, what we did is we created a tool called OSLC Connect for Jira. So this is a plugin in the Atlassian marketplace. It means that it's installed directly on your Jira data center application. There's no additional things that you need to install into IBM Jazz because it's using that OSLC protocol. And when we go into the Atlassian marketplace for data center, we have to go through some rigorous controls for performance, supportability, and security. So Atlassian does some good things about that to be able to make sure that we do that and we annually review to that. Now, what are we doing with that plugin? We're making sure that it allows server-to-server communication. It allows us to link between artifacts. It allows us to have some capabilities for reporting support. All the things that we'd like to see to be able to support a complete OSLC interface. As well as what we're trying to do is keep that Jira experience. So we want to have our Jira users feel comfortable being able to access that IBM ELM data and provide simple ways to be able to manage this. So that's our goal, and we should be able to see that as we demo that. You'll see this as we utilize the tools themselves. So what we try to do as a tool provider is make sure that these Jira users look and feel comfortable within the tools. They're not seeing anything that looks radically different from them from a Jira experience. It just looks like any other Jira capability. And then from the IBM ELM experience, what we're trying to do is make sure people stay in IBM ELM, but still have visibility and access to those Jira artifacts. And so as they navigate between these different tools, they have a similar look and feel and experience. And so limits the amount of training that we need to do and generally ups the adoption as these people utilize these products. And so in terms of where we are today, I mean, this product's been in the marketplace, I think, almost about 4 years now. And we are deployed in various different domains: automotive, aerospace, defense, electronics, medical devices. So we've seen many different usage and use cases, anywhere from 50 users to 50,000 users from the Jira perspective. So we're very comfortable with growing with scale. And what we'll do is, as we go through this demo, you'll see different types of collaborations that we do, typical use cases. So test engineers to software engineers for issue resolution, system engineers working with software engineers for feature content. And then we'll look at different ways that we can do reporting and some of the dynamics and workflows that we see within these tools. So hopefully it'll give you a good experience about what's possible and what we can do. When we go through this, obviously we're going to be using Jira Data Center as well as our OSLC Connect product, but you'll see IBM ELM, so Test Manager, Doors Next. We might show it a little bit of EWM as well, and we'll definitely show Report Builder. And so what I want you to look at and be critical as we go through is what the user experience is, what the dynamics is, and what you can do with their products. So keep those questions in mind as we go through this demo, and look forward to showing you a live show of all this. So with that, I think that's enough slideware for everyone, including myself. Let's go ahead and kind of dive into using OSLC Connect for Jira. So let's log in here, because that's always the best way to be able to start out a demo here. So we're going to just start out with ETM here. And so this is just a simple test case. And within this test case, we have things like requirements links. So these are requirements that are housed within Doors Next. And we have a very simple test script. And so the typical workflow that we're looking for here is that as somebody executes a test case, so let's go ahead and run a test case. We want to have them be able to submit tickets. And we want to be able to have them submit tickets in the tool that they want to. So this is just going to be a simple two-step test case here. It doesn't really matter what the steps are, but what we want to do is, as you're stepping through a test case in ETM, we want you to be able to generate a defect. And now what you'll see here is some interesting things. Number one is, when we go to generate this defect, this should look very familiar to all your Jira users, because this is a Jira form, and we're presenting that within an iframe within ETM. So this is the power of OSLC. This is what I was talking about, those interfaces. So this interface allows me to be able to say, if I want to create a issue from ETM, here's a Jira form that I want you to be able to embed and make it available. So it will populate some simple information in here, and maybe we saw took too long to display or something, some sort of details that I can put in here. And I can be able to create that item and be able to create a live without even leaving ETM. And so the nice thing here is you'll see that artifact there. I can fail my step here. And if I hover over this artifact, you'll see the other thing about OSLC is I can see a live preview of that data um, within Jira already. So let's go ahead and just fail this step. That will complete that test case and test result. You'll be able to see if I look here on defects, I'm going to have my defect that's over here within Jira. And the nice thing is just with a click of a button, I can navigate over to that item. Now, a few things for you to keep in mind here. Not only did it go ahead and allow me to be able to reference that test result, it also had the test case as well as the effects requirements. So those are those requirements I linked to. So I had all of those items, as well as it identified which version of those artifacts that I was working with. So, and nicely, because I've been a while since I've been in here, it's asking me to log in. What that's doing is being able to make sure that I'm an authenticated user and can access that ELM data from within Jira. And you also notice that it actually updates those items with icons and things like that. And now I can do those rich previews within Jira as well, and be able to see the details of those artifacts and be able to navigate if I want to those artifacts. So what we're going to see now is we navigated from ETM back into Jira. If I want to, I can then follow those requirements back into Doors Next and be able to have that experience of being able to navigate over in between these different tools. You'll see right now that I'm seeing just the URLs to these artifacts within Jira because I haven't logged in. So if I log in here, now I'm going to be able to see those artifacts and see those links live within Doors Next. And so I can get that experience to be able to see those artifacts and see the details about that. Now, along the way, you'll see things that we're working global configurations. We're just going to keep it to simple configurations right now, version 1 and version 2, but you'll be able to see some differences. So some of these requirements down here will have different values. We'll see different links to Jira issues as we move back and forth in between a different version of these artifacts. So if I move over to version 2, you'll see I will now display a different version of these artifacts. And so there's different details about maybe the pressure numbers or the accuracy numbers. And you'll see different versions or different artifacts from Jira because those things are bound to different versions within our Jira tool. It allows us to be able to point from Jira to different versions of artifacts within Doors Next. And then I can switch back again to version 1 if I want to. And so this should give you a better feel of, as we navigate between different versions, as we work in different configurations, we're going to have access to different Jira artifacts. And in fact, now that we're within Doors Next, we also can create artifacts within my Jira environment as well. So you saw before that I had a create from ETM because I was creating a defect. You'll see that I can do a creation as well. You'll also see that we will automatically set a particular version on this based on the configuration I'm in. So I'm in version 1 here. If we look down at fixed version, we'll be in version 1 here. Now, the other thing for me to do is I can go ahead and choose existing artifacts. And what we do here is we provide more of a Jira look and feel, because when I'm looking through here, I want to be able to do searches based on keys, because that tends to be how my Jira users tend to operate. And the other thing I want you to see is that we actually do hints here. So we expect to be able to see that this is a story here. So if I look for stories, I'm going to be preferential for those when I want to be able to find those. And then, so this is one of my items in Jira. We're going to identify when things are linkable. And we might be able to actually put some warnings on there. I think one of these other artifacts is actually in a different global configuration. So it's going to give me a warning that I probably shouldn't create a link to that artifact. So it's trying to give you some helps along the way on how to be able to do that. And you can do, if you want to, you can go ahead and create links to multiple artifacts at the same time. I think item 12 as well. Item 12 is preferred linkable as well. So let's just keep 2 items there. and we can go ahead and link multiple items at the same time. So it gives you the idea that you can be able to do a lot of work and be able to navigate, have visibility of those. Those things are going to have rich previews so I can see those right away, and I can actually see the links that they have within those artifacts as well. So it should give you a good feel of how to be able to work back and forth between different versions, be able to create information or create links dynamically from ELM back into Jira. We're not creating copies of anything. We're actually just creating those things natively within Jira. Now, if we look over at, let's navigate to one of these artifacts over in Jira. This item here, I can show you the other way in which these global configurations operate, because while we were showing in Doors Next, it would find which Jira items were reflective of that configuration. When we're in Jira itself, we're going to use this fixed version to be able to indicate which configuration of these items we want to be able to use. And in fact, if I do a little hover here, it will actually tell me what configurations I'm operating in. And I can go ahead and switch this over. Maybe I want to work in version 2. And when I select that, you're going to see that it will change and be able to show that I'm working in configuration version 2. But you also should see that it went ahead and got updates on these artifacts. So it got an update on the title and the details of that. So you'll see some of these values change. And then this is actually what we call a decorator. So this is actually providing additional information, different attributes from within Jira, or actually within Doors Next within Jira. So it gives me a preview of that information. So instead of having to do that rich hover to be able to find out, oh, wait, what's the status of this one? And have to navigate and see what the status of that one is. I can see that dynamically and visibly. Now, the other type of thing that we use those types of that data for, so we can use controls on these remote details as we do workflows within Jira as well. So in this case, we can see that the status of here is not approved. These items aren't approved yet. So if I try to navigate or switch the state to in progress, I have a workflow that's going to check those remote artifacts to be able to see if they're in the approved status. If they're not, it's going to prevent me to make that transition. So these are some of these kind of workflow or organizational supports we put in there, which would mean we either need to go change those artifacts, or if we go ahead and we look at version 2 and we switch over to version 2, we see that those are approved. And now if I went ahead and went to try to move in progress, it's going to allow me to be able to make that transition because the remote data was in states that I want to be able to have updates to. So it gives me a lot of details here. It gives me some help to understand that. You'll see things like I said, talks about those current configurations, but even that I could see more details to be able to find out what relationship type it was, what version field it's using, what the version field set to, and what GC I'm operating in. So these are the types of hints. We know global configuration tends to be some education with team members. These are the types of helps and supports that we put in there to be able to create methods to be able to work with those. Now, the other part about this is that we also want to be able to create links from within Jira as well. So you'll be able to see that dynamic way to be able to create links. We'll be able to go to collaboration links. We can go ahead and say, I want to create a tracks requirement link. It will create a tracks requirement. If I want to do this, you'll see what's nice is we'll see that Doors Next dialog in here as well. So I can go ahead and be able to pick a module. Let's go ahead and just pick a random module here. And I can pick requirements in here and be able to create relationships to those dynamically and be able to put those and be able to get details about those as well. And so we have access to all those artifacts, all those details, and we create links relatively easily and simply. Now, the other types of things we want to do is we want to make sure that we see the supports of the other things that we find extremely valuable within the ELM tool. So things like working with global configurations, working with reporting. So when we were in version 1 here, it allows me to be able to make any change or requirements. Pretty typically, most organizations have a bit more control over these things, and you'll see this in my version 2 here. That allows it says that I'm not allowed to be able to make any changes without a change set. So I can't go ahead and edit these things. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to create a change set. So basically just a set of artifacts. This will create kind of a sandbox area that I can be able to make these changes that I want to be able to do. But I also can put a task or an artifact on there that says that how I want to be able to review and approve those things. So maybe I want to do make some changes to this requirement. Maybe I want to change the state of another requirement. I can go ahead and change. Let's put this in a rejected, just as an example of what we might do in a change set. And in this case, as I'm currently in here, I cannot deliver my change set. It will give me an issue about this. This change set must be linked to an approved change request. Now, that change request is something I can actually do within Jira. So I can go ahead and link to a work item. It's going to give me a dialog, and you'll see here it's actually recommending a different type. So it's going to recommend a task for me to be able to create this change approval. And so I can create a new task to be able to do that. Now, we're still in the state that we haven't approved that change yet. So if I try to do a deliver change set, it's still going to complain to me because my change set isn't approved. But I can see that change set, and I can actually open this in a new tab. We can see my link to a change set, and actually I can go, if I want to, I can go from Jira. I can go and be able to see the details about that change set. So it's going to tell me which artifacts it's related to, but also which artifacts have changed. So it's a great way for people that are browsing in Jira to be able to see what has changed between those items. And then right now within Jira, I just have a simple rule that says if the item is done, then it's approved. But I can add more complex behaviors if I want to. So, but right now we're just going to go ahead and set that to done. That will allow me to be able to deliver my change set and get me in the delivery dialog. So you can see that you can have some process controls in there to be able to control how people might interact and be able to use your Jira tickets as a workflow to be able to review those changes, as well as to be able to make sure that those artifacts are completed, and we can go ahead and deliver those changes back into the stream. And so our version 2 is now back into the changes that we made previously. So we have those updates to those attributes, those updates to the details of the requirements itself, and we manage that through our relationship to our Jira task. Now, one of the things that we know is true is it's nice to be able to create links between artifacts, but it's more important to be able to actually then be able to report those. So what we've done is we actually provide all the details of Jira into IBM's reporting infrastructure, which includes the LQE index as well as in report builder here. So this is just a simple report here that we're going to run. It's going to show my Jira issues, what they're related to requirements, and be able to see those artifacts that we've created, those new artifacts that we've introduced between there, and be able to see those dynamically and be able to have details of how those relationships are manifest. As well as we can go ahead and quickly change and format the results. So I can go ahead here and you'll see that I have access to my Jira artifacts and their attributes. So in this case, maybe I want to put the type in here. I can add that type and be able to kind of move that up along with my Jira information. And let's just go ahead and sort that as well. And we can refresh this and be able to preview that so that we see that when we go ahead and run that report again, we're going to be able to see information about what type that we have. So maybe we have a task in here, maybe we have a story, and we can put different rules on there, what things are completed, what things are in process. So I can see which requirements have in process tasks, and I can build all those relationships and build those together. And you'll be able to see that we support that natively in how you actually look at how we choose that artifact. So we can see that within these change requests now, we actually have Jira issues. Windchill is actually another product. That's why those are in there as well. And then we can be able to build up relationships. So we were looking at how many implemented by relationships to Jira issues. So we can build up those relationships and leverage that that Jira information very effectively and very, very comfortably. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of kind of the full end to end. And now we'll kind of dive into some of the ways that organizations customize this and utilize this uh, for their own needs and how it builds into their own process flow. Um, One of the things that we did early on with our product was realize that how people want to interact with the tools is a little bit different, and how they want to be able to create links is a little bit different. You'll see things like within Doors Next, where if we're working in a stream that's controlled by change sets, uh, it doesn't allow us to update links, which is interesting because they're only actually stored on the Jira side. They're not stored um, within Doors Next. What we do is we allow people to be able to have a much more free form way of being able to create links. So I can be able to actually take an artifact and I can drag that link over into Jira itself and be able to create that link and be able to, if we want to. So I dropped it on a tracks requirement. If I wanted to, I can actually switch that over to an implements requirement and be able to create that link. Now, along the way, we're doing some checks on here to be able to make sure that we're working in the right global configuration. We can do a rich hover and be able to see those details. If we made a mistake, we can remove one of those out of those way. We can do lots of different things, but we're trying to be able to make sure that people create links in the right way. So I can give you an example of this. If I switched over to version 1 and did the same type of procedure, I could drag a requirement over here and drop it on here. We're going to give you a warning. So this requirement's entirely valid within this version 2 global configuration, but the item that I dropped was actually from version 1. So I'm going to warn you that what somebody might see was going to be actually the updated version, not the version you dropped. So we're going to give you some controls or give you some capabilities to be able to interact with that. And we're trying to be able to make it as effective as possible. You'll also see when we go to create links here, we have lots of different options in here. So these are all the different link types that we can create. So you'll see links to Doors Next, you'll see links to Quality Manager, you'll see things that are links to, this is EWM, this is actually a Windchill change as well. And we have some other items to Windchill as well up here. So we can create lots of different linkage relationships, have access to those, and present those and give lots of options to users. Now, along the way, we found that users want to actually customize that and have more control over what they see and how they might relate to that. And so what we have within our tool is a set of configurations that really help us be able to customize this for within the organization and try to make that experience better. So we can take a look at a few items over here within our admin. So issue type mapping. So if we look at what we did for this scheme here, you'll see some of the things that took place when we were doing our activity right now is that when I created an artifact from ETM, I always created a bug. That's because I configured to be able to say that I want to have that type. When we were creating those implemented by or those tracked by relationships, we always wanted to create stories. When we were doing that, basically a requirements change request, the approval for the change set, we were creating a task. We can create and be able to map these to whatever configuration you have in your organization. What that allows you to do is be able to see those relationships. So if I change what I want to be able to create from within, say, Doors Next, so okay, maybe I want to have them create an epic instead, I can go ahead and save that. So the next time somebody's in Doors Next and they go ahead and say, I want to add a link here, you're going to see that we're going to recommend you create an epic, or if you go to create a new item, you're going to reference an epic. So you have a lot of control over how people interact, say, from ELM back into Jira. So you can control what that is. So it's not a fixed relationship. It's things that you get to choose on your own. Now, we have a lot more controls when it comes to the other side of the equation, which is when we're coming from within Jira to these other tools. So in this case, if I look at, say, the story, for example, what I showed you earlier can be a little bit overwhelming. So it might be a situation where, indeed, I don't actually want to show all those different relationship types. Maybe I want to focus people on only creating requirement relationships. And so this will focus down, or maybe even I don't even want them to create the tracks relationship. What that's going to do, that means that if I'm on a story, I can go back to my story here, and if I go to create a collaboration link, it's going to minimize those sets of relationships. So this really allows you to be able to focus down what users are doing. And the best part about this is what really enhances the reporting capability. So it can focus down how we want people to interact. So a story only relates to these type of artifacts, an epic only relates to these type of artifact, a bug only relates to these types of artifacts. So it gives you a lot more control to that type of information, and allows you to be able to see how we might interact with that. And so a few more items to be able to show, and then we'll let you get to some questions, because I imagine that we have some people that are interested in being able to ask about different capabilities or different things we might do. The issue approvals, just to give you a quick glance here of what we did. So this was just a very simple rule that I had, was just go ahead and show me we're approved when we're in status done with types task. And so we have some tools in here to be able to check on whether or not that's the case. So you can set your own rules that you want to be able to do on a scheme basis. We also allow you to be able to update how you do their previews. So what information you put on those Jira previews that you see from ELM, or what data that you put into reports that go into the report builder. As well as, one of the nice things that we have here is those link decorators that we talked about. So in this case, I can go ahead and we allow you to be able to test this pretty simply. What we want you to do is simply take a requirement. Let's go ahead. I think we can take any one of these requirements here. Let's drag it over here. What we're going to see is the status information, but we can go ahead and add additional attributes on here and be able to test what that information might be. Maybe we wanted to show the requirement type on here so we can see some more detail. Oh, I already have the requirement type there, but it's going to allow me to be able to put different details about how we might test it, how we might be able to see it. Maybe even if I want to put modified on, I could actually put the data information on. But we can show different attributes live on those links and be able to store those. Now, this drag and drop allows me to be able to know what attributes are available on that artifact. It's only when I save it, it actually goes live. But it gives you a way to be able to see some of those quick hints that we saw on some of these Jira issues. And so we can be able to see those items and see details about them as we're looking at those artifacts. So that's how you see those details live on there. Now, the one last thing is actually something we added in a very recent release, and that's our OSLC schemes. And I want to show you this because I think it hits on one of the things that I think has been a challenge for some of our ELM and Doors Next users for a while. One of the things that we want to do in creating relationships is be able to control what relationships you might create. So in this case, when I'm going from Jira into Doors Next, I have the ability to be able to create relationships to requirements. I can create relationships to requirement collections. And I have control over those. So sometimes organizations decide that they don't want to be able to create relationships to modules. We now allow you to be able to turn that feature off so that they can't create relationships to modules. That's been a common ask for us. But more critically, that we've seen is that most organizations use Doors Next within modules. And one of the things that is a stumbling point is those dialogues allow from Doors Next that you either create or you select. What we want to do is say that, you know what, actually, I never want people from my change management tool to create a requirement. I always want them to be able to select a requirement. And so that's what we can do with these schemes. And what that does then, it allows me to be able to go ahead and if we go back to, actually, let's go back to this item here. We're on a story, so we saw those changes that we did before. We're eliminating these relationship types. And now if we go back into here and say we want to maybe create a relationship type. Oh, let me do implements. Hold That was just a global configuration mapping once. Effects does effects version and input once does fix version. So we're just selecting the right one. You'll see that I can't pick the requirements collection. I turned off collection, so I can't pick that dialog. But now if I go over to this create artifact, we're also seeing that we've turned that feature off. So that means that anytime that I go to create a requirements relationship, I always have to establish it to existing requirement. So it gives me a lot of capability, a lot of flexibility in how I might configure forward organization, but it helps enforce those processes that we know you have. Now, the other thing we realized when we added all these different controls to be able to say, how can I do something? We knew that people were going to ask, well, where's my link type? Maybe I'm used to creating a related change request relationship. So what I can do here is now I can ask that question of, let's look for a related change request. And it's going to give me a set of relationships. It will tell me, okay, I have a project association, that link type supported by my project, but my link type was disabled by the administrator. So for the story type, I limited that you couldn't create that type. So this gives me clues so that users aren't asking all those questions why things may or may not be there. And gives me a lot of controls for that. And a lot of support for our users, which is critical for us. And then I'm going to show one last thing, and then we'll open it up to questions. One of the things that we know that people are doing within Jira, they want to be able to search. They want to use tools like Script Runner to be able to do those searches. We're going ahead and utilizing default remote links within our OSLC Connect. What this allows us to do is use tools like Script Runner if we want to go ahead and let's see, I'm going to search for all my linked issues of remote. So these, and allow me to be able to find across my entire project things that are maybe tracks relationship. So I can be able to search across my entire repository and be able to find if I type correctly and if I put the right star in there, which is always fun in live demos when you mistype something. We can search across my entire repository. I think I have 250,000 artifacts in here. But what this is allowing me to do is be able to find all the tracks relationships. So either tracks change set, or I think I have some tracks requirements relationship. If I wanted to, I could do this and be able to be more focused, and maybe I just want to look at the change set items. I can be able to search through those and be able to use these tools to find the artifacts I need as rapidly as I want to be able to find those relationships. But it shows how we're open to the other part of the Atlassian community of different tools and different capabilities to be able to find artifacts you need, as well as if you need to do some automations and things like Script Runner, you can create artifacts, create links to remote repositories, and we can point you in the right direction on that. But with that, I think we kind of give a bit of a preview of what we can do with OSLC Connect and connecting to the ELM enterprise. And with that, I think I'll pause my screen share, hand it back over to Tom to be able to see what questions we might have now.